am Sue Webley. Welcome to another episode of Inspire. Welcome all to another episode of Inspire. We had some technical difficulties this morning, but we are here and so glad that you are joining us. Matter of fact, I need to edit my name. I didn't do that before I came on. Let me do that right quick. See, I'm glad I'm amongst family, so I could do that on the fly. I am so glad to see all of you coming in. Joining us on Facebook and on YouTube and on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Do me a big favor and share this broadcast out today, because I am so excited about the conversation that I'm getting ready to have with our amazing guests. Hey, Bishop Bonnie. Hey, Asante Love. Good morning to you both. Thank you for joining. Now, listen, I know anyone that's joining from the West Coast, because I guess it's on the West Coast, they gotta love me, because that's an early morning, okay? So thank you for joining us from wherever you are joining us from. Again, do me a favor and share this out. If you just stumbled upon this broadcast, you don't know who I am, what Inspire is about, I am your host. I am Sue Webley. I'm an author, producer, and award-winning minister, and the founder of Kara Solutions, which is the digital service agency that helps individuals like you and organizations navigate the virtual space with confidence. And so I believe in, I love you too, Bishop Bonnie. I believe in the power of words, wisdom, and witness. And that is what Inspire is all about. And so, you know, this month is Black Women's History Month, and we've been celebrating all month by spotlighting and highlighting voices that are not only shaping culture, but radically reimagining. They're using their holy imaginations about what freedom looks like, And so, again, I am so glad that you are here. Let me do some housekeeping before we introduce our guests today. I want you to connect, follow, like, and subscribe. If you're already following me on Kara Solutions LLC, thank you so much. But I want you to also follow me on Inspire with Sue W on Facebook and on Instagram, or you can follow me as Sue A. Webley everywhere. I'm everywhere, including TikTok. Also, you can head over to our website at www.getinspired.live. There you can view all of our previous episodes, find out a little bit more about the show, and you can also sign up for our newsletter. We don't want you to miss anything that's happening with Inspire, and so I invite you to sign up on our website today. Now, you know what I'm going to ask, because I see you coming in, and I know that you know what I'm going to ask if you've been with me any amount of time. What are you sipping on this morning? What do you got in your cup? Now, you know, I have coffee in my cup. This is my cup for the month. We trust in Black women. Shout out to, we are the 92% group on Facebook. And then they're also on other social media platforms. But this is one of their items. We trust in Black women. And so that's what I'm sipping on this morning. And I have some blonde espresso with oat milk and brown sugar syrup. It's good. Tell me what you're sipping on. Is it coffee, tea, water, smoothie? Is it something stronger? I'm not judging. Let me know what you were sipping on this morning as you are hanging out with us on Inspired. Be sure to put that in the chat for me. We're not going to belabor the time. You know how we say in church, we won't belabor the time. It is time to introduce our guest. Again, share this out because we don't want you to miss this amazing conversation with this phenomenal guest, Reverend Dr. Nikia Smith Robert. I'm so happy that the schedule allowed for her to be here, and she's under the weather, and she is still yet hanging out with us. So thank you, Reverend Dr. Nikia, for saying yes and for even still doing it, even though you're a little bit under the weather. She is someone whose work is a prophetic call to both the church and the world. Dr. Nikia Smith Robert is a public theologian, founder of Abolitionist Sanctuary, and a visionary between, and she'll talk about this, Abolition April and Abolition Academy. She is helping us imagine a faith that sets captives free and a future built not on punishment, but on liberation. And so, as we prepare to welcome this brilliant scholar, abolitionist, and truth teller to Inspire, let's take a clip. This is an exclusive look at a clip from her upcoming documentary. Not going to give it all, but you're going to have a little taste of it this morning.
No one should be punished for merely trying to survive. The reality is, society condemns and criminalizes poor Black mothers for trying to provide for themselves and their families against unjust social conditions. This is the Abolitionist Sanctuary documentary, which unearths the stories of community mothers, church mothers, and carceral mothers who struggle to subsist when survival is not promised and freedom is not given. These narratives are important because the criminalization of impoverished Black motherhood is an urgent moral crisis that is largely overlooked. 80% of women in prisons are Black mothers. This story challenges the criminalization of Black motherhood by shifting negative perceptions and re-evaluating Black mothers' survival not as vice, but virtue, not as...
That's all you get. Good morning to you, Reverend Dr. Nikia Smith Robert. So happy to have you here, my dear sister. How are you this morning?
Good morning, sis. You know it's all love if I am having a 5 a.m. wake up on Holy Saturday after pulling off a gala in New York City.
Yes, which was fabulous.
Just a week ago. To be here with you and your audience. I am deeply honored that you would have us. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thinking about who I wanted to have for Black Women's History Month. So shout out to Shaw Battle, who is the founder of Black Women's History Month, and she helped us kick off the month. So thank you, Shaw Battle, for all that you're doing in uplifting the voices of Black women. When I began thinking about who I wanted to have on in April, you were definitely one of the, one because you were getting ready to do this amazing gala, which under Cara Solutions, we kind of helped you with in 4 months, right? In 4 months.
You did an amazing job. We could not have had a successful gala without Cara Solutions and your expertise with production and journalism and social media content. You are just a full franchise. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And it was an honor to collaborate and dream and execute with you to make this gala happen. And it is a incredible honor to work with such an organization like Abolitionist Sanctuary, because it's so important. The work that you are doing is so vitally important. Before we get into our conversation, what are you sipping on this morning?
So it is 7:45 a.m. I wish I was sipping on an old fashioned with Angel's Envy Kentucky bourbon. However, in the morning, I like to start my day off with water.
All right. Good old H2O. I know I need to be drinking more of that. Oh, Pastor Joyce Redden said teas. So we tease that. Listen. We are going to support Dr. Nikia. We need to, go to the website and all of that. It's going to be up soon. It's going to be released soon. So I'm so grateful that she said yes to having a show. That's a little snippet of that of the sizzle reel for that documentary today. We were able to view the entire thing at the gala, and it's amazing. And I cannot wait until that documentary drops, because it's needed. It's needed. All right, let's get into our conversation this morning. Again, we had some technical difficulties. Listen, at one point I was like, should we call it? But I say either this must gonna be a fire conversation. So, Dr. Nikia, you have described yourself, or you do describe yourself as a womanist abolitionist. Can you unpack for us what that is and what that identity means for you, one, and how it shapes the theology and the activism you bring into the world?
Thank you. I appreciate that question. I want to just do a recap. Again, thank you for Cara Solutions and all that you did for Abolitionist Sanctuary to successfully execute our first gala, Freedom Futures Gala at the Riverside Church. We are a young organization, only 3 years old, so it is no small feat for a young organization that is still building our reputation and branding and impact, and still while being under-resourced, to pull off a gala of that magnitude, honoring amazing community leaders such as Linda Sarsar, Reverend Jackie Lewis, Reverend Al Sharpton, and Sharon Salam, who is a juvenile justice advocate, but also the mother of Yusef Salam, who's a council member in Harlem, New York, and a member of the Exonerated Five, who I lived in close proximity to. So I was just grateful to be able to raise the visibility of our organization. So many people expressed the meaningfulness of that evening, from the servers to vendors and certainly to our guests. So I want to thank you for helping with that, as well as Shatika Brown, who was our event coordinator. If it were not for Black women, where would I be? So just want to reemphasize that I am the executive director of Abolitionist Sanctuary. As you mentioned in your bio, our mission is to train Black serving churches, civic organizations, and educational institutions to unite against the moral crisis of mass incarceration and the criminalization of impoverished Black motherhood. Abolition womanism deeply informs the work that we do. It is not just a theoretical research project, but it's also deeply rooted in praxis and experience. I grew up to a single poor Black mother who sometimes bent rules and broke laws to make a way out of no way, and to ensure that her children can meet their basic needs. And so Abolitionist Sanctuary is looking for the ways in which we could reappraise poor Black mother survival strategies, not as vice, but as virtue, not as deviant, but an extension of the divine. That there is divine qualities in our practical wisdom. That, as Dolores Williams says, when God is not a liberator, we are. We are our own liberators, and that we can act as self-legislators and autonomously to do whatever is necessary to ensure that we do not go back to the house of our oppressor, as what God commanded Hagar, but that we can instead live in wholeness and freedom. And so abolition womanism emerges from the experiences of Black mothers and Black women, and the ways in which we are criminalized for our survival strategies. It also gives moral integrity to our practical wisdom that sometimes operates outside of acceptable standards, that transgresses normative boundaries, and yet still is a source of salvation and our liberation. So just as Angela Davis coined the term abolition feminism, she is using that theory as a branch of feminist theory that is centered on the dismantling of carceral systems and the prison industrial complex. Likewise, as Alice Walker was offering her 4-point definition, and in that stated the adjacent relationship between feminist and womanism, abolition womanism is adjacent to abolition feminism. Abolition womanism is focusing on the themes of womanism, particularly survival and wholeness, and the experiences of Black women with carceral contexts. Abolition womanism's genealogy begins with the womanist canon that was formed by Black women who were largely located in the church, and the critique of the patriarchy in the church, and the white supremacy that we saw in these feminist movements that focused on gender but not race, and this critique of Black liberation theology that focused on race and not gender. And womanism is looking to synthesize through this kind of intersectional lens that looks at the tridimensional oppressions, the ways in which Black women occupy multiple seats of oppression at once. And so we are extending that womanist framework that gives epistemological privilege to the experiences of Black women, but also from a genealogy perspective that is starting not from Aristotle, right, Eurocentric thinkers, but is starting from the canon of Black women. That is not just a written text, but a lived text, right? That these experiences are important. And what we see, the ways in which we're extending from womanist scholarship is, I was teaching a course, and it was an introduction course to undergraduates looking at womanist and feminist theory together. And what my students observed was that feminism, they felt, seemed more rooted in political action. And they saw womanist theory more rooted in a kind of elitism that was reserved to the academy. And so what abolition womanism wants to do is to add feet to womanist theory, is to bring womanist theory out of the ivory towers and into the streets, into the interior lives, the intimate realities of Black women. It's to get it gritty, right? And so, we're harnessing the tenets of womanism, particularly survival and flourishing. In terms of our kind of genealogy, we are starting with the texts, both lived and written within the womanist canon. And we want to bring womanists in reach of people who may be outside of the academy, who are living day to day, trying to struggle to survive and make ends meet.
Yeah. Whew. Thank you for that response. I see, listen, you are resonating with the folk in the chat. Richard Body says, we are our own liberators.
That's right.
We need right. Reverend Dr. Nikia, can we have the t-shirt? Please put that up.
Yes, please go to abolitionistsanctuary.org, and you can go to our store and buy our t-shirt, as well as mugs and sweatshirts and sweatsuits. We would love for you to purchase our merch.
Yeah. We need to add that one. We are our own liberators. We need to add that one to the we need to expand and add that, because yes, we are definitely our own liberators. Thank you, Chuck Jones. Chuck says, Love My Blackest Women. Link, I'll put that link in the chat, Chuck. I'll put that link in the chat. But Dr. Nikia can do it as well. So we'll make sure that you have that link. So the criminalization of Black motherhood, of course, is at the heart, is at the center, right, of your scholarship and of your activism. Why, Dr. Nikia, is it so important for us to center the experiences of Black mothers, not just Black women, but Black mothers in conversations about justice and public policy?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Black women are among the fastest growing population in prisons. 80% of women who are incarcerated are mothers. And so we see that these carceral realities are imminent threat to Black womanhood and Black motherhood. Black women are also the most religious demographic. However, according to a Pew study, data states that only 1/3 of churches surveyed actually mentioned the criminal system in their sermons and teachings. Wow. So if Black women are the primary stakeholders of our churches, they're the most religious demographic, they count on their religion to get to difficult times. Part of those difficulties are their experiences with carceral context, because they are the fastest growing population in prisons. And a large, overwhelming amount of women are Black in prisons are Black mothers. They're the most religious, so they're filling church pews, but they're also the fastest growing prison population. So they're filling the cells at the same time. Yet churches aren't talking about it. Only 1/3, right? That churches are not talking directly to our experiences with carceral context. And so it is important that we do so, particularly because when we look at Jesus's life and ministry, we see that Jesus had a concern for people who possessed a criminal element. In fact, his disciples possessed a criminal element. When Jesus gave the criteria of judgment, he said, as often as you've done it to the least of these, in Matthew 25, you've done it for me. And in that, it was, have you visited those who are imprisoned, right? So Jesus cared about those who were incarcerated. When he read from the scrolls of Isaiah and announced the purpose of his earthly ministry, he said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He's called me to preach good news to the poor. And in that, he said to set the captives free, right? So a part of Jesus's purpose, his mission statement, is abolition, which is why for a long time I've stated that Jesus is a first century abolitionist, right? And so and then when you look at the incarnation, right, the inbreaking of God into history, right, through the body of Jesus, God could have chose any body, right, any particular enfleshment, but God chose to break into history through a brown Palestinian Jew who would be criminalized, who would be arrested on trumped up charges, right? Who would hang between two thieves and die an ignoble criminal death, right? Who would die a state-sanctioned execution reserved for criminals. God chose that body. And if God chose that body, then we too must choose to act in solidarity with those who are criminalized. And that discussion, that national discourse, has largely focused on Black men. But what we are seeing in the data is that Black women and Black mothers are underrepresented, but they are overwhelmingly impacted by the carceral system. And I am arguing, my contribution to that is stating that, yes, a large amount of women who are incarcerated are there because of nonviolent crimes. They are there because of drug offenses. They are there because they have experienced sexual violence. But they are also there because of their survival. They are also there because they are merely trying to make ends meet to provide for their children and their family against unjust systems.
Now, I'm going to put this up a number of times. I need y'all to go. I need y'all to give, okay, for this word that is coming forth today. Feel free to put your giving information in the chat, Dr. Nikia. Thank you so much for sharing that. What was the point that you said I need to do this work? Like, was there a catalyst? Did something happen? Like, what was that moment of recognition for you that said, yeah, this is the work that your soul must have?
To be honest, it was Monica A. Coleman, who was my dissertation advisor. And I wanted to bring a project that I had started with Dr. James H. Cone at Union Theological Seminary, article that I published in a Harvard Graduate Journal titled Penitence Plantation and the Penitentiary, a Liberation Theology for Lockdown America. So for my doctoral studies, I wanted to expand creating this liberation theology for lockdown America. Monica A. Coleman pushed me and said, well, if you identify as womanist, why not be fully womanist, right? Mm-hmm. Why not go all the way? Because what we see is earlier womanist scholars critiquing Black liberation theology for its patriarchy, right? And so Monica challenged me to stretch my theology beyond the cross, right? Beyond the Exodus, and to instead see that at the same time that God was liberating the children of Israel in the Exodus, in the exile, right? That there was also a woman of African descent also in the wilderness named Hagar, who God does not liberate. And what do we do with that, right? Yeah. And so it forced me to think, what other experiences do I bring to my research? How do I bring the experiences of being a Black woman to my research? And in doing that, I began to ask questions about Black motherhood. And I began to search what it felt like, what the experience was to grow up to a single poor Black mother in Harlem, New York, who had her first child at the age of 15. And while supporting her dying mother, while supporting her children, while being the first person to matriculate college, still provided for us, still made a way out of no way, single-handedly. And what I thought about was all the things that she did. Sometimes she forged doctor's notes to get a day off of work when she could not afford child backup care because there was an inconvenient school holiday, right? Sometimes she fudged the rent leasing renewal agreement to ensure that her rent did not skyrocket because of privatization, gentrification, and eminent domain, right? Mm-hmm. That sometimes she forged or manufactured a higher tax refund on her tax return in order to pay the rent and to buy groceries. And that these actions did not make her a bad person. She still went to church every Sunday. In fact, she went to church probably 5 days of the week, if not 6. Mm-hmm. She was a prayer warrior. She was respected by her community. She was a moral pillar. But by society standards, her actions made her deviant. Her actions made her criminal. And I wanted to sit with that, right? With that tension of how society could demonize a Black mother's survival strategies that felt salvific to her children and her community because she saved our lives. Yeah. And so this project, Abolition Womanism, and the work that I am doing seeks to unearth the unlawful survival strategies of Black mothers and to wrestle with this age-old tension between law and morality, to suggest that sometimes breaking the law is the right thing to do. And that instead of pointing individual blame that condemns Black mothers, we should instead interrogate the structural injustices that make their survival nearly impossible in the first place.
Thank you. If you're just joining us, we are in conversation with the amazing Reverend Dr. Nikia Smith Robert, who is the founder and executive director of Abolitionist Sanctuary. I see your question, Pastor Joyce. So let me just go ahead and first, you know what? Let's take a break and then we'll come back. We'll start with Pastor Joyce's question and we will continue our conversation with Reverend Dr. Nikia. So thank you again for joining us today. I am just so overjoyed that you are here, that you are in conversation with us, with me, with Dr. Nikia, with Abolitionist Sanctuary. And so I want to invite you to connect, follow, like, and subscribe. Again, if you've already followed us on Cara Solutions LLC, thank you. We also want you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Inspired with Sue W. We also want you to head over to our website. We invite you to do so at www.getinspired.live. There you can view all of our previous episodes and subscribe to our newsletter. We don't want you to miss anything that's happening with Inspire, so we invite you to join our mailing list. Are you or someone you know on a mission to create change while inspiring others to do the same? Well, we want to hear from you. I want to have you in the seat, in the virtual seat across from me. We want you to be in conversation on a future episode of Inspire. You can also, again, visit us at www.getinspired.live. You can book your appearance on Inspire. So if you head over to our website, click on the Be Our Guest tab and fill that information out. If you are someone who's on that mission to create change, or if you know someone, you can certainly fill out their information. Let us know all about them so we can have them on a future episode of Inspire. Now, you know, we're going to do this. We're going to do this every single time we have an episode. Our dear sibling in community, Pastor Yanni, Reverend Yanni, the Peace Pastor, our sibling needs a kidney donor. Listen, she has been faithful. She has been fighting the fight. She has shown up in the ways that the divine has called her to show up on the earth. And so gathering together in community, we definitely want to do what we can to help her get a kidney. So she's in search of potential donors who are fairly healthy, who have the blood types A or O, and who have the courage to commit to surgery and help share her life. And she'd love to share the safety measures with you. If you're someone who's inclined, who's interested in doing that, or if you have a connection to a organization, if you have a resource that she can tap into as she navigates this search for a kidney, please, 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 I implore you to reach out to Yanni and her family at peacepeopleinc@gmail.com. That's peacepeopleinc@gmail.com to contact her and her family to share whatever information that you might have. You can also head over to EmeryLivingDonor.org, EmeryLivingDonor.org. Fill out that survey and enter her name, Ayana Davis. Let's do this thing together in community. We want to help her as much as we can to help her get her kidney. Now, we talked about Cara Solutions before, and I don't normally do this on Inspire, but I'm going to throw it up there today. So Cara Solutions helping you navigate the digital space with confidence. And so, again, as I mentioned earlier, we are a full-service digital agency specializing in helping our clients achieve their goals through consulting and training, content and social media management, graphic and web design, and live stream production. This is an example of live stream production. And so if you are interested in any of those services, we invite you to visit our website at www.cara-solutions.com. Don't forget that hyphen in the middle, www.cara-solutions.com. You can schedule a consultation right from our website, or if you desire to contact us directly, you can send an email to us at info@cara-solutions.com. info@cara-solutions.com. We are going to get back into our conversation with Reverend Dr. Nikia Smith Robert. Thank you for joining us again, Reverend Dr. Nikia Smith Robert. We are so appreciative of you spending your time hanging out with us, the Inspire audience. I do want to make sure that I am getting those questions to you for you to answer. And I think this question that Pastor Joyce has about the churches, why are they not talking and supporting? I think it also goes into that the question I have about the Black church, right? That the Black church has a unique responsibility in the fight against mass punishment. So, in response to Pastor Joyce's questions, why are the churches not talking about it and supporting? And then, can you respond to what would it look like for the Black church to truly show up as an abolitionist sanctuary?
Well, thank you, Pastor Joyce, for that question and being deeply engaged in the conversation. The church is not talking about it, I think, because we are still so deeply vested in patriarchy and erasing and devaluing the experiences of women. I also think the church isn't talking about it because I think carcerality still carries a stigma. And because of the church, some churches' theology around sin, and wanting to uphold piety and respectability politics, that we are ashamed of centering anyone who transgresses the boundaries, right? Who are considered deviant, who are considered sinful. So the same ways that we don't talk about women's bodies being violated by sexual violence, the same way we don't want to talk about teenage pregnant women who give birth outside of wedlock, the same way we don't want to talk about that many of us believe in the agency of our bodies outside of marriage. And so we don't want to talk about pleasure. It's the same reason why we don't want to talk about criminality and Black women's experience with the prison industrial complex. And what churches can do to become abolitionist sanctuaries is to find ways in which we can center those experiences, that we can get rid of harmful theologies, harmful teachings and practices that shame and blame and punish and condemn Black women for living their life, living in their agency, that we don't reinforce disparaging stereotypes and social mechanisms that seek to blame women for their own misfortune, right? That Black women's agency is not sinful. That we, when we look at the fall, right, the doctrine of the fall, we think of women as inherently bad. And becoming abolitionist sanctuary is redressing those harmful theologies and asking the question, what would it look like if women were inherently good, right? And so abolitionist sanctuary in our mission, as I stated earlier, is to train, right? We want to train churches to redress harmful theologies that are death dealing, that are rooted in blame and condemnation, and instead help churches to embrace what we think are key abolitionist values, which are compassion, care, creativity, courage, and community. So how do we respond to Black women's agency with compassion and not condemnation, right? How do we preach theologies that do not portray Black women as inherently bad, but as inherently good, right? How do we find the salvific value in Black women who are trying to make a way out of no way, that over and against society's appraisals of deviance and criminality, that we can still say they are, an extension of the imago Dei, that they are created in the image of God. Right. So abolitionist sanctuary our theory of change rests on three principles: to repair harms, restore relationships, and rebuild more just and equitable systems. So what can churches do to become abolitionist sanctuary? It can be rooted in reparative justice, repairing harms. It can be rooted in restorative justice, right? Restoring relationships, and also in transformative justice, which is how do we create the kingdom of God here on earth, more just and equitable systems. And by doing that, we should be compelled to see God's image, God's value in the experiences of Black women, that we center them and do not leave them out on our 7 last word flyers, right? That we still don't see an all men roster for the 7 last words, and in our conferences, it's not still just all men speakers, but that we see that God also speaks through and uses Black women, that God's salvation also extends to our trans community, to Black women, femmes, right? That is not restricted to men, that God is vast enough to hold all of our identities in God's image.
God is vast enough to hold all of our identities in God's image. Whew.
Yeah.
That's a word. Thank you. Thank you for so much for sharing. Again, if any of you who are watching on social media right now, if you have a question for Dr. Nikia, please go ahead and post it. Even if you're catching this in the replay and you still have questions, you feel free to post them as well, and we'll be sure to get them to Dr. Nikia for her to respond to. So Abolitionist Sanctuary has a number of initiatives. So one is Abolition April. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And then we also have Abolition Academy. So can you also tell us more about Abolition Academy?
Yes. So Abolition April is an initiative that we started a year ago. So this is our second year, and it is where we recognize the 4th month of the year as dedicated to abolition. What would it look like where nationally and locally that we are all recognizing what abolition means for our democracy, what it means for our parenting, what does it mean for our teaching, what does it mean for our relationships, what does abolition mean as a way of life and a catalyst for social change? What does it mean in this month to think about alternative approaches to punishment? What does it mean to challenge carceral systems and work to dismantle prisons, right? What does it mean for us to be collaborative and rooted in community and denounce the capitalist values of individualism, right? So Abolition April is a month in which we are seeking the possibilities of freedom futures. That we are seeking the possibilities of what it looks like to resist the dominant American values that are rooted in social hierarchy between the oppressed and the oppressor, empire and everybody else. And so our initial goal was to get enough traction and signatures locally here in Los Angeles for Mayor Karen Bass to pass Abolition April as a officially recognized month. And so what it has expanded to is a month that we are inviting our coalition partners to think about how can they contribute to raising awareness around abolition during this 4th month of the year. One of the things that we've done this year in Abolition April is we had a Freedom Futures weekend. And that was this past weekend where on Friday, we hosted an Abolition Academy at Union Theological Seminary, focusing on the topic of abolition democracy. It was planned in partnership with Columbia's Law School to talk about religious freedom as well as abolition. And democracy. And then on Saturday, we hosted our gala, our Freedom Futures Gala. By the way, you can still give to support the Freedom's Future Gala if you want to make a contribution, if you want to sponsor, if you want to contribute to the silent auction, just go on over to our website, to our events page at abolitionsanctuary.org. We did that on Saturday, where over 120 guests thought enough about abolition and Black motherhood to join us. And then finally on Sunday, we organized churches around the country for a National Palm Sunday. And there we focused on palms, praise, and protest, because when Jesus is riding through Jerusalem on an unused donkey, right, and the crowd is waving their palms saying, Hosanna in the highest, what we are arguing is that that is a political statement suggesting that Jesus is Lord and not Caesar. And so how do we recapture the prophetic resistance of Palm Sunday to stand up against the Caesars, the Trumps, empire, to state that there is a more excellent way. And that more excellent way is through Jesus, who is the first century abolitionist. So I invite others. We are still in April.
Yes, we are.
And still some days left. If you want to participate in Abolition April, just hashtag Abolition April. Feel free to tag Abolitionist Sanctuary or myself. We would love to invite you and be partners with you in this movement.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So you've spoken, right? At national protests, spoken at the White House, right? Even stood alongside movement builders like Patrisse Cullors and Michelle Alexander. What is it, Dr. Nikia, that keeps you grounded in this work?
My colleagues, right? My colleagues who are connected around the shared goal of freedom. I'm encouraged by colleagues such as Linda Sarsour, Palestinian activist, who has a pure heart for people, her people, who does not do this for shape, form, or fashion. She does not do her work for likes and follows and influence, but she genuinely cares about the freedom of her people. It is people like Linda who I want to see myself reflected in, that is grounded in the integrity of the movement that should always be about freedom. And I just want to sincerely capture that spirit, that the work that we do isn't about notoriety, but it's about impact. And so when I think about colleagues like Linda who stay true to the cause, that holds me accountable. When I think about those who are suffering, when I think about the legacy of my mother and other Black mothers who are penalized for not having access to meet their basic needs, and are punished for trying to make a way out of no way, those stories hold me accountable. And then being a mother myself of 3 children and wanting to create a world that my children deserve, that grounds me. And abolition is faith in God, who is a liberator, who's on the side of the oppressed, Jesus, who is an abolitionist, that grounds me. And so, I'm grateful, because what's key to abolition is accountability. And what holds us accountable is community.
Thank you. Thank you. So as Black women doing this work that disrupts and heals, we know we never walk alone. We don't do this work by ourselves. And you already talked about your mother. So I know that's a shoulder that you stand on. But who can you name? And I know you've named some already, but who are some other Black women whose shoulders that you stand on? And how do their sacrifices and stories shape the way you show up?
Yeah. There's a great cloud of witness. And so I stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, of the Biddy Masons, the Sojourner Truths, the Harriet Tubmans. I stand on the shoulders of Fanny Johnson, of, so many, both, living and deceased. And I also want to mention that I stand on the shoulders of everyday Black women like you, Sue, and who made it possible for me to dream and execute a gala and extend my capacities to grow the movement and the organization that we're doing. I stand on the shoulders of our event planner, Shatika Brown, right? The ways in which Black women take nothing and make something. We take a little and do a lot, right? That we may not get what we deserve, but we will pool our resources together to make sure that another Black woman doesn't fail.
Yeah.
And so I'm so encouraged by the camaraderie of Black women, the community that we build, that come hell or high water, we gonna make it. And it is that resilience that we see passed on from our ancestors, that continue to live in you and me. And that's the community that I want to build around me. I don't, there is a misperception of Black women as being less than the value and the power of who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
And that we are not reduced to cattiness and cliques, but our strength and valor is in our community. It is in our collaboration. And that's the group of Black women I want to be around, who empowers us, because that is what our ancestors taught us. And we stand on their shoulders, and we owe it to each other to support one another, to collaborate, and to ensure that we are not only dreaming, but we are doing the work that our soul must have.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing. You mentioned that you were a mother of three and that got to see your children
Yes.
during a gala. And so you're also a wife, right? And
Yes.
you are definitely, we already know that you're a woman of faith. So, what are some ways that you protect your joy? We talked about joy a lot on Inspire, especially now with everything that's happening in the world with this administration, that we have to lean into our joy. The joy is something that they really cannot take from us. So how do you protect your joy, and how do you protect your wellness while you do such heavy work? What does self-care look like for you?
Yeah. My self-care is rooted in family, it's rooted in girlfriends, and is rooted in all that redeemed and ratchet behavior. When I need
Redeem the ratchet.
when I need an outlet, hashtag ratchet and redeemed. When I need an outlet, I can find the spaces that are safe for me to do the things that I need to do, to restore and refill my cup. So just shout out to my partner. We will be married for 18 years this year. My husband is incredible. He's incredible. And so much of what I do and what I'm able to accomplish is because he's okay with playing the back scenes to ensure that kids are making their practices, that their breakfast and their lunch is made. He's doing all the things behind the scenes to ensure that I have the space and the capacity to do this work. And so I'm just grateful for our partnership. I'm grateful for the ways in which we are not defined by normative roles, but we just do whatever is necessary to have each other's back and to ensure that we are dreaming and have the empowerment and the encouragement necessary to know that we could believe in those dreams and achieve them. So shout out to my husband, shout out to my children, who just always, give kudos to mommy. And, it means so much to see them take pride in the work that I do. And that means a lot. And for sisterhood, my best friend, Miasia, I call her my husband, right? I have my husband and I have my husband. And she definitely holds me down, and so many other friends and mentors and colleagues. My self-care, my husband and I, we wake up at 4:15 in the morning and we work out together. And so exercise is a part of my self-care, ensuring that I'm trying my best to care for my temple. My self-care is right now, my self-care is just is kind of connected to ambition, right? There's a future that I'm trying to build, and knowing each step that gets me closer there feels good, and it's encouraging for me to run on to see what the end will be.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I probably could do better with self-care these days. I am doing a lot. There's a lot of balls in the air, and I'm often very tired. But I think in this season, my self-care is connected to the ways in which people love on me and help.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so grateful for your presence here today. Thank you for hanging out with us on Inspire. What is next for you, Dr. Nikia? How can we support you?
Yeah, I would appreciate if people would visit abolitionistsanctuary.org, sign up for our newsletter, download our podcast, follow us on social media, use the hashtag abolitionist sanctuary, use the hashtag repair, restore, rebuild. Uh, Give, donate, become a member, become a partner, become a reoccurring donor. This work is under resourced, as you know, with this Trump administration. A lot of funds are being eliminated. I personally do not accept government funds, but it also impacts organizations that might give to us because they accept government funds. And so the funding well is drying up, right? And so what we have seen from our community is cooperative economics, right? And so we are all we need. So I greatly value the support that you could give through individual contributions for this work. What also is next for us is our documentary, and we'll be raising funds for that. Right now, that's $100,000 project, and we invite you to partner with us to ensure that these much needed stories are being told and elevated of church mothers, community mothers, and carceral mothers and our survival, so we can shift the narrative, right? So that we can show that our agency isn't a source of deviance, but a source of moral integrity and salvation. So please give for the documentary and also sign up for our courses, become certified in abolition as social change. You can visit abolitionacademy.com, sign up for our courses. If there are any financial hardships, reach out to me personally. I would much rather you take the course than for you to say you can't afford it. And then for institutions, we license our courses and our social learning platform. So if there are institutions who want to partner with us, our courses comply with ATS accreditation. We can offer our courses for credit. And if there are individuals who want to offer their own trainings, you can use our platform and license that, and we can partner with you as well. So thank you so much for following us, for liking us, for engaging our social media content, and partnering with us in this work to lead a faith-based abolitionist movement. We are grateful for every church who wants us to come and help with training your congregation to become an abolitionist sanctuary. Who welcome to each and every one of you for the ways in which you partner with us. So thank you so much.
Oh, you have blessed us today with your brilliance, with your fire, with your passion, and your unwavering commitment to Black liberation. So thank you for giving us so much to reflect on and even more to act on.
Yes, and buy merch.
And buy some merch, buy some merch, buy some merch. Thank you for all of you who have joined us, our Inspire community. Listen, Inspire wouldn't be here without you. And so I'm grateful for every single Saturday that you show up and hang out with me and our guests on Inspire. And so let this episode be your invitation to go deeper, right? As Dr. Nikia stated, please visit the website at abolitionistsanctuary.org. Learn more about it, take a course, join a campaign, sow into this important work, sow into the work. Because we all know that freedom is not a metaphor, right? It is a mandate. So until we meet again next week, of course, I want you to stay encouraged. I want you to stay empowered. And most of all, I want you to stay inspired. We look forward to seeing you again next week.